Gotta get Miss Kathy to get you to where you can.
Hello, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Ascension Parish Home Rule Charter Revision Committee, and we'll start with the invocation followed by the pledge. We'll ask Reverend Burnett to lead us in the invocation, and Mr. Jarrow to lead us in the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord God, for this opportunity to gather tonight, Father God. We pray, Lord God, that we gather tonight, Lord God, and be in decent and order, Lord God. Let your presence be felt in here, Father. Let us work together, Lord God, for the good of the community. And all these things we ask, and we all in Jesus' name we pray and say amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, now we'll proceed with the roll call.
Mr. Dawson. Mr. Burnett.
Here.
Mr. P.T.
Here.
Mr. Trosclair.
Here.
Mr. Jarrow.
Here.
Mr. Kazare.
Here.
Ms. Casso.
Here.
Mr. Lawler. Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Ms. Laurent.
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here.
Mr. Lambert.
Here.
You have 2 absent.
Okay. Okay, before we start with the rest of the agenda this evening, we're going to ask each committee member and each speaker to please be conscious of speaking directly into your microphone. It's my understanding that it's much clearer, and the audience could hear every word that will be said. So again, just a little reminder. Speak directly into your mic. Okay. The public comment sign-in still going on. Please feel free to come up if you'd like to speak on any one of the items on this evening's agenda. Moving down to number 4 on the agenda, we're going to ask for a motion to return it to the calendar, if it's okay with everyone, and we'll reschedule it on an upcoming meeting's agenda. However, there are some individuals that would like to speak during the public comment period regarding Article 4, which is the governing authority. So as I call your name, please come forward and speak into the microphone. First, we have Councilman Daniel Doc Saturday. Councilman Saturday.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. Today in the Pelican Post, Councilman Lawler and Dawson were called out for various quote-unquote subterfuges surrounding their covert, or is that overt, roles that they have played in advancing ABA's agenda to take our votes away in electing a parish president. I don't hesitate to add this evening a third hypocrite who sits with these men on this very committee, Mr. Trosclair. I will start with you, sir, and work backwards. Mr. Trosclair is a Councilman Dempsey Lambert's designee and is supposed to be representing the wishes of District 5 voters and to a large extent the whole of Ascension Parish. But now, okay, since Mr. Dawson, and that's Bill Dawson, has decreed, quote, it's time to let the elephant out of the room last time, let's just do that. What do we know about Brandon Trosclair? Who does he represent? He's an ABA board member who has testified publicly in the past that ABA is not a political action committee, did so in front of my committee and others.
Excuse me, Mr. Sadler, excuse me. We would, at this time, we're taking testimony on Article 4, and we're trying to please
right, but
not let it be personal, because, you know, we're here as a committee.
There's not an article tonight, and it was let out the room, that we're going to be talking now about ABA within the next meeting or two, and I'd like to set the stage for that this evening.
Well, as long as we don't go personal, I mean.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you call it personal, just to be pointing out facts, sir.
Okay.
All I'm doing is giving facts of things that have happened.
Okay, let me bring hopefully some clarity to the table. and we're going to respectfully try our best to agree. The living document that this committee is dealing with is the charter of Ascension Parish.
I understand all that, sir.
Well, but let me finish. Our job, our roles, our duties and
I
responsibilities.
know that as well, sir. I appointed you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
And we can either hear this tonight, or we can hear it when I cannot be stifled down, when I sit up where you are to decide.
Well, I'm not
what
trying to
I recommend.
stifle you, but we don't want it to go personal, sir.
Who's
I
we?
mean,
This is a
well, the
public.
committee.
This is a public meeting.
If I can speak for
So
the
you
for the
willing to
committee.
censor an elected official's comments because
I'm
you
not trying
disagree
to
with them?
censor you. What I'm trying to say is let's speak
You haven't even
to
heard what I have to say.
the commission. Well, you've made a few personal attacks.
Well, I mean, it's not attacks, sir.
Well-
I think it's fair to say that these are actual things that have happened.
Nothing to do with compensation of
Well,
employees.
long
Mr.
as-
Queeser,
Yes.
let's make it easy on everybody. Would you like me to sit down, sir?
No. I
I'd be
would
glad to
not
do
take
so.
that right away from you. You have a right to speak. What I'm trying to do.
Well, I mean,
is
the
stick
rest of my
to-
speech is not going to be something you want to hear.
Well,
But
but
I
if
think
we
the
can
public
stick to
wants to hear it, it needs
415
to hear it, sir, and I would like to say it.
Well, this article that we're discussing is dealing with section 415, compensation of employees.
All right, perhaps then, if I understand you correctly, I should bring this back when the elephant is really let out, because maybe it's not let out yet. Is it out of the room, or is it in, or is it not fair game until we actually have, I don't know. I mean, I frankly, sir, can't make up my mind. I come here every time. When exactly is the ABA issue going to be considered? Now, my designee wrote you and your fellow committee members a letter asking that exact thing and say, hey, let's get it on now.
Okay,
What are we waiting for? So I figured, hey, the elephant, Mr. Dawson said, that's what I just quoted, was out of the room.
okay, Councilman Saturday.
Mr. is fine.
First and foremost, I think that it would be a disservice to the parish and to those that appointed us to conduct a meeting of this committee by way of text messages to start off with. I think that's a disservice to do that.
The way of
Whether
text message.
anybody
Well, I have no idea what
engaged,
you're talking about, sir. You want to be
well,
clear?
you're talking about something that was sent to us.
It was an email, sir.
Okay, well, I don't think that we should conduct this business
That's
by
a-
way
well,
of email.
Sir, when you're sent an email, okay, maybe you don't realize this, okay? That is public record, okay? When I get something on ap.gov, that's a public record. Why would we not want to be 100% transparent, unlike ABA? Let's just be transparent and say, this exists. This email to you asked, is this what we're going to do?
Okay, but guess what?
Well,
There's no
Mr. Queeser,
prerogative
just please tell
saying
me,
that
when
we
can I
have
come-
to
when can I come
respond
back-
to an email.
When can I come back and say these things?
You can stay there now, but I'm asking you, let's not get personal,
If
sir.
I get a paragraph down into this, you're going to ask me to stop again. I know the routine, been here, done that.
Well, again, I don't think that this committee wants to stand.
Okay,
wants to sit and listen to
let me continue
thoughts
reading, and
being
when you
thrown.
tell me to hush, I will, sir. Is that
Continue.
fair enough?
Continue.
Thank you. Mr. Dawson has decreed, quote, it's in the public record last time, it's time to let the elephant out of the room. I say let's do that. What do we know about Mr. Trosclair? Who does he represent? He's an ABA board member, that's a fact. He testified public in front of my committee in the past that he's not a political action committee member, that's a fact, but rather an organization of citizens who simply are interested in the betterment of Ascension Parish. I ask you, is that really so? I ask him once again, why does he and his ABA organization refuse to date to disclose their donors, and why do they continue to hide behind their 501c4 status? And while I'm at it, Mr. Trosclair, please explain to us here why you have formed Citizens for a Better Ascension PAC on September 25th, 2017. Another fact, donating yourself to that PAC, along with your fellow ABA board member, Mr. John Scanlon, who's sitting in the back of this room, who gave the Citizens PAC $2,500 in October. Facts, 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 facts. Turning to your colleagues, I have the following to say. Considering that ABA was formed on February 16, 2017, Messrs. Lawson and Dawson, early on, quote, in January or February of 2017, unquote, met with ABA and originally denied the same. This is at least suspicious activity. Then there's the outright hypocrisy of Mr. Lawler, who on the one hand, quote, decries the library's board's targeting of off-cycle elections when it has been demonstrated that, quote, relatively few library supporters in mass voting repeatedly wins out over paltry overall turnouts. But on the other hand, Mr. Lawler last week expressed, quote, outrage at the lazy electorate at the last meeting of the HRC Revision Committee meeting, when we all full well know that ABA's best chance of success is throwing a couple $100,000 at December 18th election, when turnout will most certainly be in low single digit. As far as Mr. Dawson goes, his failure to ensure that the Council's Committee of the Whole's mandate, which is authored to, quote, publicly vet the charter amendment proposed by A Better Ascension, unquote, has accomplished nothing short of a travesty. Instead, as we all know, Mr. Dawson established second appointed public committee, that's the one y'all serve on, the HRC Revision Committee, to do the dirty work that the council would not do. Gentlemen, this is shameful, and it needs to stop. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have Mr. Jeff Pettit.
Mr. Cuiser, I'm probably going to be a little bit off topic too, but it has to do with when I saw the agenda that came out for this meeting tonight, and also when I saw the parish calendar that was published today, I had some concerns because your fourth meeting this month is actually, it falls on a holiday, and I assume you're not going to meet. So we lose the opportunity to have one more meeting of this body. I'll start my remarks now. My name is Jeff Pettit. I'd like to read to you a resolution of the Parish Council meeting on August 3rd, 2017. This is from Chairman Bill Dawson. I hereby appoint a committee of the whole with the specific task of publicly vetting the charter amendments proposed by A Better Ascension. It goes on from there. It ends with it that the committee of the whole, which is the Parish Council serving as a committee, will report back and make a recommendation. That never happened. One meeting was held, one failed to reach a quorum, and the third was never held. Okay? The Home Rule Charter Revision Committee, when y'all were formed, your first meeting, you promised the citizens of Ascension Parish a thorough and public vetting of all proposed changes to the Home Rule Charter. If that cannot be accomplished under the artificial deadline, a deadline selected to meet the specific wants of a very small special interest group, then ask for more time. If more time is not given to do the job that you were appointed to do as representatives of the people, send the whole thing back to the council and tell them to finish the job that they started and failed to complete. Make no recommendation on any proposed change that has not been thoroughly vetted, as you promised to do. With those words in mind, any group, including 12 guys at a crawfish boil, that want to propose changes to the Home Rule Charter may do so under our current governing document, our Constitution. The methods to make changes to the charter as it stands are: 1, for a supermajority of the council, 8 votes, to propose, discuss, vet, and endorse the changes. That has not happened. ABA's rewrite has never been vetted to date. Never. Secondly, you can do it by a petition of the people. 33 1/3% of the registered voters signed a document asking that a proposed change be put on the ballot. That has not happened. What has happened is that this council created this committee to be a buffer between them and the residents of Ascension Parish, much like they created the Planning Commission to approve new subdivisions. They intend to follow the committee's recommendations without a complete and thorough vetting of ABA's scheme and pass the buck and the responsibility to you. Don't become the Planning Commission. You have all seen where that has gotten us. Bottom line, if you're not given the time to do your appointed jobs in a responsible manner and allow the public to be heard, then send ABA's proposal back to the elected officials and tell them to do the job they started and failed to complete. They were elected to do this and are so charged in our Home Rule Charter under Article 9, which we haven't gotten to yet. I'm going to take a leap of faith and assume that every member of this committee has read our current Home Rule Charter and all proposed revisions to it, including ABA's complete teardown and revision in its critical parts. Have you made the needed comparisons and considered the ramifications of all proposals that have been offered? If not, you must do so as promised. This committee must represent the people in a responsible manner, as our elected officials, the parish council, have failed in their job. Don't fail in yours. Don't fail the people of Ascension Parish. Thank you. Sorry I went over.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Mike Latchley.
I think it's smoking right now. I don't know if what I gotta say is gonna compare to what these two gentlemen before me just said. My name is Mike Latchley, and I'm a citizen of Prairieville, Ascension Parish. I'm here tonight on behalf of the people who can't make it because of the early time limit, or they don't know what's going on, but I make it my business to tell them. I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and I'm gonna give them the choice. I will tell them what's happening on both sides. I believe in fair and equality. I don't like the injustice. I don't like the behind-the-scenes things that are going on. I'm telling you this because the people that I talk to don't like what they're hearing either. I'm telling you because they're telling me. You're not going to hear it, but you are now. You're here tonight. You're here on this committee. You're here to make sure that you do the job you were appointed to do. You be true to yourself. You got to answer to God in the long run. Okay? I'm going to condense this down to one last paragraph because the two gentlemen before me said everything I needed to say. The ABA proposal is going to take a right away from me, a right that I gave blood and sweat in the U.S. Army to keep. Okay? I believe in my system, my governmental system. I don't believe in the people in it. The people in it are broken, not the system. It's been over 240 years that this system has worked, be it on a public level, state level, federal level. It still works. Fix the people, not the system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Clint Quintmore.
Chairman, it seems like we've got a little off topic of the agenda, but actually my comments are about every item that's on here. When I listened and taken notes of the last meeting, and item 6 comes up, and realized that these changes and resolution was written prior to even getting here, that it was already staged, it was already decided, well, then I realized that I had been lied to. I realized that I had been duped, because every second and every minute that I spent reviewing the Home Rule Charter and looking for changes for better government was a complete waste of time. Then I got really hopping mad, because then I realized that this council lied to you, citizens. And they told you you were here to vet Home Rule Charter to make changes. You're here for one reason and one reason only, and it has everything to do with item 6. You're here to be a political pawn and to create a political buffer for this council who was unable to do their job as a committee of the whole. And that's the truth. That is the truth. And you may not mind being lied to, you may not mind being a part of it, but that is the truth. You are a political buffer. And that was stated in item 6 on the last meeting. Now, I'm going to apologize to you. Citizens, former parish president, chairman, I'm going to apologize to you because they will not. And you're being used so that they can say, we put ABA because it came out of a group of citizens. Not that we can't wait, right? Not that we can't properly vet. Look how much time we spent just on a current Home Rule Charter. How about a total rewrite of existing government? Y'all can pull that off in a month? Having one meeting a week? Do you know the amount of information that is involved? You know why it doesn't matter? Because ABA is going to end up on the ballot. And it doesn't matter what you say. The fix is already in. The backroom deal's already done. And if you don't believe me, listen to the comments and watch what happens. And the extension, don't even bother showing up. It is a waste of your time. Everything discussed here today is a waste of your time. Because the fix is already in. And you're just wasting your time. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I don't have any other cards. Any more comments from the audience? Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to return Article 4, which deals with the governing authority, Section 415, compensation of employees. I'd like to return that to the calendar.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Martinez,
Second that.
second by Ms. Casso. Any opposition to that motion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is carried. All right, next on the agenda is number 5, and it's Article 6, Ordinances and Resolutions. A, Section 6-01, entitled Acts Requiring an Ordinance. Acts Requiring an Ordinance. Is there any commentary from the committee? If it pleases the committee, I'll read it, and then we can come back to comments. Section 601, Acts Requiring an Ordinance. An act of the governing authority which is to have the force of law shall only be enacted by ordinance. An act requiring an ordinance shall include, but not be limited to, one which, number 1, provides for the reapportionment of the governing authority of the parish. Number 2, levies taxes or assessments. Number 3, appropriates funds or adopts a budget. Number 4, grants, renews, modifies, or extends a franchise. Number 5, provides for raising revenue. Number 6, regulates the rate or other charge for services by the parish. Number 7, incurs debt in any manner. Number 8, abandons any property owned by the parish. Number 9, sales, conveyances, or leases of any parish-owned property. Number 10, acquires real property on behalf of the parish. Number 11, adopts or modifies the official map, plat, subdivision ordinance, or regulations. Number 12, amends or repeals any ordinance previously adopted. Number 13, proposes amendments to this charter. Number 14, creates, abolishes, or consolidates any parish department, office, agency, or provides for the consolidation and transfer of any of the functions of such department, office, or agency. Or, number 15, provides a fine or penalty or establishes a rule or regulation for violation of which a fine or other penalty may be imposed. That's it in its entirety. Any questions or comment? Hearing none?
Mr. Quayle,
Yes, Mr. Lambert.
what, on number 8, what is the procedure that we use to discard or get rid of property? I'm sure that's set forth by state law and stuff.
Abandons any property owned by the parish. Yes, I think that procedure is prescribed. Mr. Martinez?
Yes,
would you like to
any
comment?
like, man, it has to be like any vehicles and stuff. It has auction, public auction, any equipment, public auction. And land, you have to go to also an auction at the courthouse, and it goes up for the same thing. So everything has to be, you have to put out a notice 6 weeks ahead of time or something to that effect.
But that's prescribed by state law?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I'd like to make a motion to leave as is.
It's been moved by Mr. Trosclair, second by Mr. Gyro, to leave this section 6-01 as is. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby adopted. Next is that of B, Section 6-02, enactment of an ordinance. Enactment of an ordinance. Any questions or comments? Or I'll read it, and then we can come back to it. Okay, Section 6-02, enactment of an ordinance. A, except as provided in Section 604 hereof, an ordinance shall be enacted only in the manner provided in this section. B, each ordinance shall begin with the words, "Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority," or "The Ascension Parish Governing Authority hereby ordains," or wording similar thereto. Repetition of the ordaining clause is in succeeding portions shall not be required. C, introduction, for, title, adoption, and publication. Number 1, each ordinance shall be introduced in typewritten or printed form. No ordinance shall contain more than one subject which shall be clearly expressed in its title, except in the case of a codification or revision of ordinances, annual budget ordinances, or ordinances proposing related amendments to this plan of government, or proposing the substitution of an entirely new form of government, in which case they shall be deemed to embrace but one subject, and their title need only refer to the general purpose and scope thereof. Number 2, an ordinance may be introduced by any member of the governing authority or by the parish president at any regular or special meeting of the governing authority. Upon introduction of any ordinance, the secretary of the governing authority shall distribute at least one copy to each of the members of the governing authority and to the parish president. After the ordinance has been introduced, and unless it is rejected at the same meeting by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the members of the governing authority shall cause the title of the ordinance to be published in the official parish journal at least once, together with a notice of the date, time, and place, when and where it will be given a public hearing and be considered for final passage. The publication shall be at least 1 week prior to the time advertised for the hearing. No ordinance may be adopted at the same meeting at which introduced unless declared an emergency ordinance, and no ordinance shall be declared invalid by reason of any defect in publication or title if the publication gives reasonable notice of its intent. Number 3, at the time and place so advertised, or any time or place to which such hearing may be adjourned from time to time, the ordinance shall be read in full, and after the reading, all interested persons shall be given an opportunity to be heard. Number 4, after all persons have been given an opportunity to be heard, the governing authority may pass the ordinance with or without amendments, and the ordinances as finally adopted shall be published in full in the official parish journal within 10 days after it is approved by the parish president, or within 10 days after governing authority action overriding a presidential veto. The vote on final passage shall be recorded in the minutes of the governing authority by the individual vote of each member of the governing authority. To comply with the provisions of this subsection, approved ordinance shall be published either individually or as part of the minutes of the meetings of the governing authority. Number 5, any member of the governing authority who shall have any substantial personal pecuniary interest in the adoption or passage of any ordinances, resolution, motion, or measure shall declare such fact to the governing authority and shall refrain from voting on the same at any time, whether on final passage or otherwise. Any person who shall knowingly violate the above provisions shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $500 or imprisonment for not more than 60 days, or both fine and imprisonment. Number 6, the effective date of any ordinance shall be prescribed therein, but shall not be earlier than 5 days after its publication in the official journal. Number 7, each proposed amendment to an ordinance shall be presented in writing or reduced to writing before its final consideration. An amendment to a proposed ordinance shall not nullify the purpose of the proposed ordinance, nor, except for ordinances involving the annual operating budget, a capital improvement budget, or a codification of a parish ordinance, add a new subject matter to it. I think instead of evolving, I think it should have meant including the annual operating budget and so on. Number 8, an ordinance shall be enacted at a public meeting when voted upon favorably by at least a majority of the members of the governing authority, except that an ordinance to increase a tax, service charge, occupational license fee, or special fee shall only be enacted when voted upon favorably by at least 2/3 of the members of the governing authority. Excuse me. Number 9, the provisions of this section shall not apply to or affect any emergency or budget ordinances as provided for elsewhere in this home rule charter. So those are the 9 sections dealing with the enactment of an ordinance. Any questions or comments at this time? Mr. Lambert.
I'm sorry, but what would be the example of an emergency ordinance?
That will be addressed in 6-04.
Okay.
Which is 2 items down.
All right, I'm sorry.
No problem.
And then on number 5 down there, it says that a fine of $500.
Or 60 days.
Well, I don't think $500 is enough to deter anybody from anything anymore.
Okay.
That's just a comment. Just
Okay. Point well taken. We do have the authority to move to increase it if we see fit. Mr. Hernandez, and we'll come back to you, Mr. Lambert.
I guess is there, on Mr. Lambert's comment, is there anything in state law that requires that we can't change that?
I don't have that information.
Okay,
with me,
that's just
to be honest
a
with you.
question. Also, in paragraph 2, it talks about the publication shall be at least 1 week. I know a lot of people have hit me up not being able to. 1 week may not be sufficient, that they may want to try to make a meeting. I don't know if we can maybe move that to 2 weeks prior or 10 days prior.
Okay, we certainly can if that's the will of the committee. And we can entertain both of those in motion forms at the appropriate time. Mr. Martinez, did you have a comment?
It says at least.
Pull your mic down.
It says at least, so they could actually give it more
Okay,
time.
that's fine.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Lambert, let's go back to that $500 fine. What's your pleasure or further comments?
my question is, what's a reasonable number? If we're going to deter somebody from doing something that is illegal, I would say $2,500, but I mean, that may be a little high, but there's got to be somewhere in between here and there.
Mr. Petey.
You're getting into a felony territory because there's a fine limitation on how you delineate parish courts from district courts, and councils, local municipalities don't have the authority to enact felony criminal laws. So I think that fine would be too high.
And Mr. Quazer?
Yes.
It states, and I agree, $500 seems like it may be minimal, but it also states that you can be defined and imprisonment. So I think once you add on the imprisonment time, the jail time, it makes it sufficient.
Okay. So is it the will of the committee to leave it as is?
Make that as a motion, leave as is.
Okay, motion by Mr. Trosclair.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hernandez. Okay, any opposition to that motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none. The motion is hereby adopted. Any further comments on this section? Mr. Martinez?
I'm not gonna belabor this point, but I think that sometimes it says that the ordinance shall be read in full. Sometimes they're about half a book thick, and you know it usually takes sometimes a half an hour to an hour, and sometimes over that to just read it, especially during reapportionment time. So, you know, I'm just making a point here that may be something you want to look at. I know everybody would really want to hear the whole thing, but sometimes it's almost impossible. And if you listen to the legal advisor on this one, when he does read an ordinance, you can't understand it anyway because he's going too fast. So just to get it over. So I'm just making a point here. I'm not trying to make a
observation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments?
Can we fix that?
If we so choose to.
The 2008 committee had made that change to do a summary.
Yeah.
And although I don't agree, disagree with that, just, I think we talked about it at the last meeting, putting too many things on the ballot and nothing passes. It seems, to me, minute to, I know it takes some time, but might as well just leave it for.
That's why I didn't make a motion.
Okay. All right. What I'm feeling is that the committee is feeling that we should just let it stay as is. All right. Can we entertain a motion of such?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, moved by Ms. Cazzo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Martinez. Any opposition to that motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none. Motion carried. Okay, now, we'll go to section, well, alphabet C.
That's good.
Section 6-03, enactment of a code. That one is brief. The governing authority may only enact a building, electrical, plumbing, traffic, or other code by ordinance in the manner required in section 6-02 of this article, provided that, 1, only the title of the code need be published. Number 2, copies of the text of the code shall be available to the public after introduction. Number 3, a general public hearing shall be held. And number 4, the code shall be signed by the president. That in cases enactment of a code. Any commentary, any questions? If not, move forward with a motion.
Move we accept as is.
Second that.
Moved by Mr. Gyro, second by Mr. Trosclair, that we adopt, that we declare that Section 603, enactment of a code, remain as is. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby carried. Section D, which is entitled 6-04, Emergency Ordinances. I'll read it. To meet a public emergency affecting life, health, property, or public safety, the governing authority, by a vote of 2/3 of its members, may adopt an emergency ordinance at the meeting at which it is introduced and may make it effective immediately, but not to exceed 60 days, except that no such ordinance may be used to levy a tax or grant, extend or modify a franchise. An emergency ordinance shall be published in full in the official journal of the parish within 10 days after adoption. That entitles emergency ordinances.
I'll move it remains as is.
Moved by Ms. Cazzo,
Second that.
second by Mr. Trosclair, that we leave this section 604 emergency ordinance as is. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion hereby passes. The next section is that of alphabet E, which is section 605, signing an ordinance, signing of an ordinance. Very, very simple. It reads as follows. The president and secretary of the governing authority shall sign each ordinance after it has been enacted. What's your pleasure?
Motion to leave as is, please.
Moved by Ms. Cazzo, second by Mr. Hernandez. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby ratified. The next section is that of alphabet F, in particular, Section 606, Codification of Ordinances. The governing authority shall codify all parish ordinances. The codification shall be adopted in a single ordinance. The governing authority shall print the code and make copies available for the public. Additions and amendments shall be codified and printed as a supplement to the code at least every 2 years. Ordinances of recurring nature, such as those incurring debt or the annual levy of taxes, need not be codified. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Leave it as is. I make a motion to leave it as is.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Martinez, second by Mr. Cazzo. Any opposition to leave it as is? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby carried. Next section is that of alphabet G, which is section 607, resolutions. It reads as follows. An act of the governing authority which is not to have the force of law may be enacted by resolution. Acts which may be adopted by resolution shall include but not be limited to one which, 1, establish a commemorative day, week, month, or year. 2, authorizes a person to sign or execute on behalf of the governing authority a contract which has been previously approved. Number 3, authorizes a person to execute, sign, or countersign a check or draft on an account of the governing authority. Number 4, declares a statement of public policy of the governing authority. Or number 5, removes any person from office as provided for or authorized elsewhere in this charter. That is section 607, resolutions. What's the pleasure of the committee? Any further discussion or comments?
I move it remain as is.
Moved by Ms. Cazzo,
Second.
second by Mr. Burnett. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby ratified. That concludes the agenda for this evening's meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
It's so moved by Ms. Cazzo to adjourn, second by Mr. Lambert.
No, I don't want to second that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
All right, where are we headed now?
Finance.
The next section would be that of Article 7, Finance.
Yeah, but then, and those other proposals are coming forward. I mean, I know we have them scheduled. We gonna have enough time? Any
Well-
other things we need to try to look at, do, think about, plan for?
Well, what we can do, was food for thought, let me put it this way,
Yeah.
quite naturally. We have requested an extension of time. However, any items that we want to move on now as a committee to suggest to or make recommendations to the parish council, we can do that. Now, I know we have 2 Mondays allocated in the month of May to the ABA organization or any other organization that wants to come before us. So it is at the will of the committee that we can move whatever articles. For example, if we said, well, we want to, and this is just food for thought, we want to suggest or recommend to the parish council that these 2 items be considered to go on the ballot in December. Well, if that's the will of the committee, we can so move on that and make those suggestions and recommendations to get it to the parish in a timely fashion. So, yes, we still want to go through the charter article by article as we've started. However, we do reserve the right as this committee to forward anything that we so choose as a committee by way of majority vote and send that to the council, the parish council, for their further consideration. So example, if we want to beat the time frame of December, and I know I'm repeating myself, we have within our authority to move with that and send recommendation 1 or recommendation 2 or 3 or et cetera to the parish council. So be thinking about that, committee members, and then we can move accordingly. Mr. Trosclair?
I would like to make a suggestion that for our next meeting, we do 7 through 10. Of course, I'm assuming we're going to meet next Monday, but 7 through 10, I don't have a problem staying here more than 45 minutes. You know.
We have a 50-minute
drainage
meeting.
meeting.
There's a drainage meeting, so we have to get out within an hour,
Understood.
okay?
Tonight,
Okay.
next week.
Any further comments or questions before we adjourn? If not, the motion has been made and second, and there's no opposition. The meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you for your time and your attention.